thank you so much for staying with the Monday Report. You're just in time for the town hall session live at the Uma University Auditorium right here in Kajiado County. We are localizing the conversation on climate change and its effects. And the biggest question we're asking, are we ready for climate change crisis? Just the other year, COP28 had the last conversation, and they did this and declared the loss and damage fund, about $792 million worth. That's about 196 billion Kenya shillings. But what does that mean for the local pastoralist who's lost his animals during drought? We are currently experiencing El Nino. Right after that is La Nina, a drought season. Scientists are predicting that 2024 might be the hottest year yet, 58% chance. But are we prepared? That is the conversation we're having, and we'd like to hear from you at Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV Kenya. Use the hashtag Monday Report. Let me introduce my guests real quick so that we have this conversation starting right now at the Uma University. From my farthest right, Moses Parantai, representative of the pastoralist. Thank you very much for making time, sir. Dr. Lane Mpoke, the CECM, Water, Environment and Climate Change in Kajiado County. Thank you very much for making time. Anita Soina is here. She's a climate change advocate. Thank you very much for making time. And Emmanuel Dennis, climate change advocate as well. Thank you very much for making time. And Lane, I'll start with you. In context of Kajiado, what are the challenges that the people of Kajiado are facing when it comes to climate change, and what are the mitigation measures that you have put in place as the minister?
Thank you, Trevor. As a county, I think we are facing the toughest of the vagaries of weather, and particularly so because of the fact that we are a people that are practicing our one livelihood source in terms of livestock. A majority of the communities in Kajiado, the pastoralists, are actually looking at livestock as their mainstay of their economic base. And when you look at the challenge of, say, a phenomenon like drought, then you have a very big problem when we have not prepared enough to take care of the animals during the drought in terms of their feeds, in terms of availability of water, and we end up losing so many of our livestock. In the past year, 2023, in the drought, we lost approximately 40% of our big assets, that's the cattle, which is about 300,000 animals. And we lost, at the same time, 39% of our sheep, which is about 900,000 sheep. We fortunately did not lose the most adapted, that is the goats, because they are both grazers and they are also browsers. So they survived somehow. And so when you look at the effect of El Nino, for example, kind of like now we are also going to experience livestock diseases that are related to particularly vector-borne problems. So we are running helter-skelter, trying to organize for vaccinations, trying to look at preventative measures that we can put to be able to protect the herds. We also have a big challenge with urban communities because the impact of drought has had a ramification on our urban space. A lot of our people, when they couldn't make a living from the traditional pastoral production system, have actually moved to their towns, putting a lot of pressure on security, on lighting, on waste management, and it has become a Herculean task for us as a county government to try and look at the urban space per se. We have to look at everything that we do, Trevor, from the lens of climate change. We have a plan, a blueprint for our county, the CIDP, and we have had to go through painstakingly looking at the issues of climate change and how it affects every of the bits of proposals that we have in the plan.
Okay, we'll come to the CIDP in just a bit and also talk about the ADP, which is the Annual Development Plan. But let me bring in Mr. Parantai on this as a representative of the pastoralists. What are the adoption measures that you're putting in place? How are you adjusting to the loss of livestock? Because Poke says you lost 40%, that's 300,000 herds of cattle, about 39% of your sheep. How are your people adapting to this?
Thank you, Mr. Trevor. Let me say, climate change is a phenomenon which has taken pastoralists by surprise. This is a phenomenon, condition or a situation which came by when people are not prepared. They didn't know that they used to have rainy seasons, which are actually consistent. They come and they feel comfortable and they build up their hearts. But this time, after this phenomenon, they actually got confused and they could not make end. They could not actually prepare on how to go about in their daily feeding of their livestock. So, in essence, it actually distorted all their affairs. Yeah. Because to them, livestock is the mainstay of their living. And after this, they actually faced a lot of problems. One, they distorted the education for their children. Children were not able to attend school because their parents have moved from place to place in search of grazing. At the same time, others failed to go to tertiary institutions because they could not, their parents could not actually come up with fees. They cannot raise money to send them to schools. They had actually to undergo so many other problems, like reducing their cash flow in the family setup. You know, livestock to a Maasai or to a pastoralist is an ATM. The next day, when they really feel they need money, they just move into a herd, pick a goat, pick a sheep, pick a cow, and take it to the market. In the next few hours, they have the money in their pockets, which is able to sustain their livelihood in that manner. Yeah. Surely, this has actually created a lot of heavy losses to pastoral families. Pastoralists now, we have almost 40 to 50% of them having lost totally all what they had as in form of livestock, or even in their and even in their families. Yeah. Most of them has nothing to feed on, and we have in other areas lost even individuals. Yeah. People have died. So this phenomenon has actually become a thing of which the pastoral people keep on talking about. Yeah. How are we going to face it? And here we are. We had moved, as the county has said. They have actually tried in some areas to rehabilitate the boreholes, which has been dilapidated. They've come out also by citing some other water sources, using maybe solar systems, and this has actually improved their livelihood, particularly to those who has an issue of water. Okay, we'll come to the solutions in just a bit, because it's interesting that you say this caught everyone by surprise. So I'll come to you as a member of the pastoralist community. What do you recommend going forward? But that we'll talk about in just a bit. Let's hear from Soina here. Soina, as a young person, what do you think we are missing when it comes to fighting climate change? Is it, are we being caught by surprise, like Parantai is saying, or is it that there's not enough advocacy on this?
Trevor, I would say that lack of enough advocacy, and especially involving the communities that are most involved by climate change, because then we find ourselves in rooms designing mechanisms, talking about them, but not really having them at the center of the conversation. And speaking, for example, of the pastoral communities where we're talking about how do we get them to move from keeping cattle to other sources of livelihoods, but it just doesn't happen one day that we wake up, we lost our cattle, and so now we have to move. It has to be meaningful, it has to be intentional from the leadership perspective, that we are really doing this for the community, and so take them through a process for them to understand the phenomenon itself. We've gone to the field severally where you talk to people and they say, for sure, I lost my cattle, and when you ask them what's the cause, they just say it's drought. But if you ask them what caused the drought, they don't even really understand, because we want to go to them and ask them to find alternatives, but are we really engaging them from the word go? Are we really educating them to understand what exactly is happening and why there's a need for shift? And so that's also political goodwill. I can say, of course, right now as a country, we realize that the political goodwill has really improved when it comes to addressing climate. So we can imagine if we have that in the local levels to make sure that all leaders, and it's not just left to the Minister of Environment, for example, it's left, what about other ministers? The other panelists spoke about how climate change affects education. Where are we bringing in the Ministry of Education, for example, to come on board? So this is something about bringing everybody on board, the young people, having their voices heard, the communities, private sector, and just working together towards a common goal.
Okay,
yes.
Interesting. And Emmanuel, Dennis, you know, you've dealt with this at a global scale. What are you seeing as the gaps when it comes to the conversation that is being had out there and the local mitigation measures here? Is there a disconnect? That there is such boardroom resolutions that nobody understands or even implements them on the grassroots, or what is the gap here?
Thank you, Trevor, for having me on this particular show. Climate change, as you know, currently everyone knows climate change is a global crisis. The conversation from its onset was a preserve of scientists, politicians, and activists. We have not involved the local communities in making sure that we come up with the solutions that really speak to the local people. You see, climate change has a correlation to poverty in the local communities, the issues that we are hearing that are affecting the pastoral communities. For example, in Kajiado alone, the loss of livelihoods, the loss of livestock, the loss of, these losses that we are seeing at community level. Yet, this conversation, at a global level, we have solutions. We have scientific evidence that speaks to interventions that need to be adopted. We have seen politicians coming up and saying they have initiatives that really need to be undertaken. However, we have left out the local communities in addressing these particular issues. We have not involved them in the plans. For example, the climate change legislation. How have we included the local communities, the local mwananchi, to be able to ensure that they own the practices at local level and that we then rally each and every one of us? And in order for us to actually address climate change globally, we need each and every person to be involved in that particular practices at community level. And as long as we continue to ignore the local mwananchi in addressing climate change issues, in translating the solutions to their local languages, to the practices that really need to be undertaken at local level. Yeah. We have been talking about indigenous knowledge that has been practiced for over many years. Yet we are also coming up with novel ideas, scientifically proven, which are being discussed at a very global level, but then the biggest gap is the local communities in order to ensure that then the actions actually permeate to the local level.
Yeah, and it's interesting what you're saying, because Dr. Lena, this is exactly what the government initiative called FLOCA was meant to address, financing locally led climate action programs. In fact, there's a funding there for the climate change action program, which should be led by the community. But what is the missing link here?
I don't think there is a missing link on that one. We are on process and on course for implementation of the FLOCA program. We're just through the first phase of the institutional support, and we are actually eagerly waiting for the investment grant. In fact, I wish anyone listening and in touch with this particular program should know that actually counties in this country are waiting for the investment grant to come through so that we implement the information that we have gathered with the communities from the ward level to the sub-county and to the county. We have put in structures that support from the ward committees to the county climate council, climate change council. And so it's not the time, Trevor, to talk about what is not working. Mm-hmm. It's actually what we have are procedural issues. Why is the money not in the counties yet for the investment grant? And there are technical delays that are happening, and we wish that they can be addressed particularly from the national level.
Yeah, so if that happens, for example, how will you help Parantai and his team of pastoralists who have lost their animals? I know FLOCA is not about emergency funding, but when it comes to investment grant, which is for the local communities, how can you intervene?
I think we are working all the time and in touch with communities. Remember, Trevor, FLOCA has been developed from a long, long process, but communities have always been there. We have to appreciate the fact that we have very resilient communities, very inherent resilience, not one that is acquired from outside. Yeah, our local knowledge systems are actually the backbone of our survival. So the fact that there are delays in implementation or the rollout of FLOCA from the investment phase does not mean that we are sitting idle. Our communities are working day in, day out. They are already implementing a lot of their own local initiatives in a small way, conserving water, working on pasture management. Before FLOCA came, we still had a lot of initiatives that are very much in line with what FLOCA is bringing. What FLOCA is going to do is it's going to inject a stronger impetus to the movement that we already have.
Yeah.
So I believe that as communities and as a county government, we are on course, but we just need that big kick that can make us now, that can propel us to, because the issues are scale, the issues are, dealing with resources, everywhere, as resources are scarce. And we are happy enough that World Bank and the Kenya government are working in this partnership to bring specific resources that are going to focus on locally led climate actions.
Yeah. Parantai, what would you want to see going forward? What would you recommend? Because globally, people are talking about targets for net zero in the world, but also people are talking, COP28, for example, made a declaration on the loss and damage fund, about $792 million US, about 196 billion Kenya shillings. But as a pastoralist yourself, what do you recommend going forward to help other pastoralists like yourself when they lose their cattle? What would you like to see implemented?
Trevor, I would like to say, pastoralists would like to see that they get enough knowledge on how to go about fighting this phenomenon or this problem. They are also looking forward to see that there is a lot of education down there in the grassroots for these people to understand what it means for this climate change to be there and how to tackle it. Yes, we need all the departments, all government departments, to work around the clock, because if it is water, pastoralists are facing problems in water. So the Ministry of Water should come out very clearly in educating the pastoralists on how to conserve their water. We know there are so many ways of harvesting water in the pastoral setup. But you go into the pastoral setup, you don't see any rock catchment. Yeah? If there are, very few. Why? Because there are no donor funding. There are no people actually even educating the pastoralists on how to go about that particular initiative. There are so many rivers, which are seasonal rivers. These are rivers which are supposed to be maybe blocked in a way at a certain point to supply water in other areas. I've just given an example of Ministry of Water. Now you go to the other ministries like the agriculture. They are supposed to come out clearly to educate the pastoralists on dry land farming. What sort of crops are actually necessary or important for the pastoralists to get involved into it? People now are thinking on what they call modulated pastoralism. This is that sort of pastoralism where they are down there thinking on how to make their own money using whatever they are able to capture around them. And by doing so, this is where they are failing. Because if it is on agriculture, they go into crops which are not even sustainable in dry areas, rather than looking at that. Now, the other part of the Ministry of Livestock, we don't have extension officers right in the field to educate these people on proper grazing management. But they entirely rely on their knowledge, there are many years, how their fathers and grandfathers have survived. And this is why we have that livestock movement from place to place. And that is why we get a lot of losses from this, because they are not taught on even conserving these animals in what we call enclosures and feed in form of feedlot systems. You know, disease control. You can talk so many areas. So I would say there should be a looked critically on how to educate the pastoralists to understand this. Because even if you bring an initiative which pastoralists don't know, and they are not interested, they will not pick it. You have first of all to give them the knowledge, let them pick it up, and this has to start from there, right down at their home. Because movement to other areas, to them is their daily life. It is easy for them to say, today a certain area has got a lot of rain, let's move into there. And so education to these pastoralists, financial assistance to other areas, technical advice for all the whatever initiatives are needed for them, like water, and all this, animal husbandry and all these things. These things are key.
Before I bring in Soino on this, Mpoke, I'd like to hear your reaction on this really quick, because he's talking about the lack of advocacy and imparting knowledge to the pastoralists. What are you doing as a county to ensure people are aware of the options that they have?
You know, Trevor, communities are not uniform. They are amorphous, if you like. To say that communities are not being trained or not being exposed is not very accurate. The truth is we are training and exposing our communities. But we can talk about coverage, we can talk about the reach, but certainly the departments, each of the key departments in the county are doing a lot of community awareness.
Except it's not enough, because Parantai is saying that you're not reaching everybody.
It is rather difficult for me, but I want to say, Trevor, that if you reach out, and we are using community radio, and we have several vernacular radios where we speak, if we are using community barazas, if we are doing all the awareness sessions in any of the works, including the public participation efforts that we do for every engagement, what else are we supposed to do? We need to be able to reach out more and more. It's a going concern, but certainly you can't say you are doing nothing.
So this comes to what you were saying in terms of political goodwill. Because you see, when it comes to, if Dr. Mpoke, for example, says now he wants to run for governor, everyone will know. But then, how is it that it's much more difficult to cascade information that can help this pastoralist faster? What should be done now? Should they use, what kind of structures should they put in place now, as a young person yourself?
Trevor, and that's why before I mentioned goodwill and really being intentional about this, like if today we decide to look the cameras away, the offices away, and you sit yourself in a corner as a leader in a certain office, you ask yourself, where's the impact really? Because if we are to talk about, you mentioned before that we have heavy rains right now, and what we are expecting next is droughts, possibly. And this has happened before, that climate change has been there, only that it has been worsening. The effects have been worsening. But are we really, really, really engaging the communities from a point of, if you look at the arid and semi-arid regions, you realize we have common problems. And these are the same counties that so many times will be mentioned for embezzlement or anything. It's so easy to point and talk about the resources that we do not have, the inadequacy of the resources. But it's not easy to point on the little that we have. What exactly, how can we be able to measure the impact that we have? And if that has been happening, what's the impact so far? It's been years and years. So we have to come back and say, Waziri can tell us that this is what we've been able to do. These are the communities that we've been able to train. And this is, you're quantifying so that we get to really understand how much the communities have been involved.
Yeah,
Yes.
and you are also part of the Africa Climate Summit. You're also part of COP28. What kind of impact has that had on the climate change conversation, or is it just boardroom talk?
I think global conversations do shape a lot when it comes to local and national conversations. There are global conferences such as COP28 can influence national and regional politics, regional policies that can be important for our own people, but also looking at myself and so many other community actors who we are not really paid to do this. It's out of passion. You do realize that by getting into such spaces, we get to amplify the work of our community more. That's why I mentioned that it's something that needs everybody on board. So we get to use such platforms to highlight the conversations. And if you're keen, you realize that the private sector plays a key role in influencing the outcome of the outcomes of COP, such as the loss and damage finance and even adaptation funding. So we use our platforms and our voices in such spaces to amplify the needs of the communities that we do represent back home.
Okay, let me bring back Emmanuel on this. And Emmanuel, you mentioned something about indigenous knowledge. How best can that be fostered to deal with the current new trends of climate change? And also, how best can Daktari Waziri here ensure that the people at the grassroots get this information that they so much need?
Yeah, so just before I can be able to respond to that, I think there needs to be a very honest conversation from a policy perspective, from a political perspective, to what is actually being practiced on the ground. It is one thing to say that we are doing a lot, but it is the other to be able to see the impact in the local communities. And so, pointing out to FLOCA, there are certain parameters and certain, benchmarks that each and every county is supposed to have put in place before they can be able to receive those funds. For example, FLOCA is very keen on participatory planning and budgeting. As long as you sat in a boardroom with 3 consultants and assume that you actually came up with a climate change plan for the community, then it does not speak to the principles that FLOCA is actually talking about. And until you go to the communities and speak to them, and they identify the priorities within the communities, within the rural areas that then speak to climate change, we will not be able to see quite a lot of the counties actually receiving those resources. But I'm happy to see that up to maybe 45 counties today have been able to, achieve the very initial steps that are supposed to be done, yet resources were released during the Africa Climate Summit. And so we need to see an accelerated action by the counties involving the communities so that then the communities can be able to benefit from this. Speaking to indigenous knowledge, you see, today we have scientifically driven, interventions. Yet at local community, if you go to the local communities and talk to the elders, the people I normally call wisdom keepers and knowledge keepers, they will tell you that during the olden days, there was practices that they had to be able to do planting. They needed to have prepared seed that will be planted during drought season. They needed to have prepared seed that will be planted during the rainy season. And that knowledge is actually existing. During the olden days, there was knowledge to be able to identify when the drought was going to come and to be able to then prepare the communities on measures that they need to be able to put in place in order to adapt to that change. And we have seen that population is increasingly, reducing. And until we begin to tap into that knowledge, to be able to then play it forward, so that then we can be able to mix both scientific knowledge that we are seeing today and the local knowledge that we had during the olden days, then we will see an accelerated, locally led climate action, led by the local communities. And so, a lot of work is being done by local communities, and until we see, government really supporting these initiatives.
Yeah.
we need to see each and every person really participating in this. Otherwise, then we are going to see quite a lot of disasters continuing to affect us.
Are you seeing a disconnect from the global declarations that are being had, like COP28, for example, and what people really need at a grassroots level?
I mean, quite a lot of efforts have been done at a very global level, and it is bestowed upon countries. For example, you talked about the loss and damage fund, which was passed, which was actually a push by African governments and African negotiators to be able to ensure that we have a loss and damage fund that will be applied to local communities. The mechanisms on how to do that are not yet very clear. And until we begin to prepare ourselves, there's usually what we call localizing those global declarations, so that then they sit and fit within the context of each and every country. FLOCA is also the same thing, that you have a climate change initiative at a national level. It needs to be localized to the county level, and the county must ensure that each and every ward is represented when it comes to actions that need to be undertaken. Okay. And until we do that holistic approach in ensuring that the declarations are actually translated to the very local communities, then we will be missing the point. Okay. And it is an issue of leadership. And until our leaders become serious, so that then we all begin to, address this particular global crisis. And we need to do it. Let us not leave it to, the NGOs and private sector. Okay. It is a responsibility of each and every one of us.
All right, I want to open the floor for questions and comments. If you have one, just raise your hand. But first, I'm looking for Grace Saitoti, Chief Officer, Water Services. Where is she? Where's Grace? Right here. Can you pass a microphone to her so that you tell us, we are experiencing floods now. Many people are wondering, what are you doing to conserve water going forward? Because after this, we'll be dealing with drought. And also, as Grace is answering that, I'm also looking for, is it Janet Sereu? Where's Janet? Janet Sereu, because you're also the CCM Gender County, or the county government of Kajiado. The most affected people are actually women, because they're the ones who are fetching all this. So they're the ones impacted most by climate change. What intervention measures are you putting? Let's start with Grace. Then I'll open the floor for anybody who has a comment or question. Just raise your hand, the microphone will come to you.
Okay, thank you, Trevor. As the county government of Kajiado, and now that we have floods, we are really working very hard with the Ministry of Education and also talking to communities to harvest water, to do rainwater harvesting. We have a policy for rainwater harvesting, and even before we approve plans in the county government, we usually advocate that all buildings be fitted with rainwater harvesting mechanisms. Also, to alleviate the issues of floods, we are also doing dikes and also surface runoffs. We are really trying to harvest surface runoffs to ensure that we take advantage of these floods, to ensure that we harvest as much as possible in terms of doing dams and also desilting to ensure that our communities have access to water. Thank you.
Have you worked on maybe water pans or boreholes or dams? Do you have a general figure of how many there are during this season that will then help us go through the La Nina season, which is coming?
We usually do based on every financial year, based on our budgetary provisions. This financial year, we have close to 15 boreholes that we are going to drill. Also, we intend to rehabilitate more than 20 boreholes. And in addition, we are trying to convert most of our boreholes, which are usually powered by electricity, to solar powered, so that at least it can be cost efficient and also energy efficient, and also in addition to have energy that is friendly to our climate, and hence supporting the climate change initiatives.
Okay. You can pass the microphone to Janet so that we hear, Janet, the intervention measures as the CCM for gender here. What are you doing to ensure that the women are alleviated from the suffering?
Thank you, Trevor. The Ministry of Gender and Cooperatives is working closely with the Ministry of Water, the Ministry of Agriculture. We are championing for the formation of cooperatives, the production of pasture. We have noted the gap that is there is really in Kajiado County. Our soils are very fertile, but to be able to to ensure that we curb the movement of animals from one place to another. We are trying to train and capacity build our people on cooperatives, production of pasture. We have found that there is a lot of land in these communities, especially in the group ranch areas, that these communities can be able to fence off. They can be able to produce, with the help of the county government, to be able to produce pasture that can be able to help to ensure that there is no movement, that real movement of animals from one place to another. So we are organizing the women across Kajiado County in cooperatives and capacity building them. We are using a community approach to be able to change the mindset of our people to ensure that we can organize ourselves and change our livelihoods.
Okay.
Thank you.
By a show of hands, who has a comment or question? I see there's a comment here. Just pass the microphone, and then I can see Dorcas Naishorua.
I just want to
Dorcas, Miss Climate, you have to say something so that we find out from you what the intervention measures are. But yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Trevor. I'm Dr. Chola, the CEC in charge of agriculture, livestock, and fisheries. Yeah. And I just want to add that climate change is real, and we have to accept that the solution lies with us. There is nobody who will give us a solution. We have to actually take the action, and it is not later than now. I also want to agree with the panelists that, and some of the panelists, that the solution, the pastoralists must be part of the solution, and we must involve them when actually we are coming up with the solution. But I want to say that one of the challenges which actually made us lose so many animals is the issue of pasture. Actually, my colleague, Dr. Leonard, said about diseases as one of the challenges, and water. But a major issue which actually we are trying to address, and I want to say here as a Department of Agriculture and Livestock, we have put a lot of emphasis on the pasture production and conservation. Because if you must have the animals, the pasture must be there. And I want to say that I want to assure Mr. Parantai that we have extension officers. And I can assure you that we have really tried to capacity build. I mean the pastoralists. There is a change, because I've been here when we had the drought of 2007, 2009. There was nobody, actually there was no pastoralists, which we haven't talked about conserving hay, what we call the hay. But now you move to most of the homes here. I'm assuring you, Trevor, that people have seen that there's no other way. We have to produce more pasture and actually conserve. So I want to assure the congregation here that as a department and as a county government of Kajiado, we are actually trying to address the issue of pasture, and we are actually working very, very closely with the Department of Water, because we have realized that we don't want to rely on water-fed pasture production or even crop. Because even in that case, even crop is affected, and crop is under my department. So I'm about to swear the congregation that as a county government, we are very serious. We have the climate change is there, and we have to find a solution, and we are finding the solution together with the pastoralists.
Do people understand what it is from your perspective? Do the farmers understand what this is, or are they dealing with this as per the occurrence? So they see flooding, then they're like, we're facing floods. They see drought, we're facing drought. Are they relating this as climate change and something that is going to continue happening?
That's just the way I said, Trevor. When we had the drought in 2007 and 2009, people were not seeing that this is a change. They were seeing this just a sort of occurrence. But I can assure you now, there's something which actually needs to be done, and there's something which is not happening. Yeah. Because even the indigenous knowledge, actually people have tried even through the indigenous, they're not finding a solution now. And so they have seen, I'm convinced that the people have seen there's a change which need to be addressed. And everybody is talking about climate. The pastoralists are also realizing. And that's why we are saying, even the people who, which never used to be there. Because I can give you 2009, 2007, when he told the people that they can conserve the pasture and give them what's called hay, people will say that our animals don't eat this. But I'm telling you that 2023, but that hay was everywhere, and people realized that this is what can save the animals. So seeing that the people actually have seen that there's a change, and I think we are moving with them to see how we can address the issue of climate change.
Let me bring in Dorcas on this. Dorcas Naishorua is a Miss Climate. one department that most people don't even understand. So let's hear from you first. What does climate change mean to you? What are you seeing as the gaps, and what do you recommend forward? Where should our priorities as a country lie at this particular moment?
All right, thank you very much, Trevor. And yes, my name is Dorcas Naishoro, and I'm the current Miss Climate Kenya, and also the ambassador in forestry and the Kenya Forest Service, and also the ambassador in under the Ministry of Environment and Forestry. So as I sit here today and share my insights about this special topic on climate change, I have experienced the diverse effects of climate change, and being a girl from the Maasai community, from the panelists, everyone is mentioning some of the deep cutting issues that are actually experienced, starting from education, going to water and sanitation, bringing in the issue of advocacy, and also bringing in the issue of financing, and also indigenous knowledge. These are some of the factors that I've actually seen and experienced at a personal level. For the last 4 years, I've been running an organization called Isilan Women in Conservation. And Isilan Women in Conservation brings in women and girls who have actually experienced the direct effect of climate change. And I'm very happy to actually have our head of gender here with us, and also for Waziri. I'm very excited to be part of this congregation today, because we get to understand that for issues to do with female genital mutilation to happen, it means that issues to do with climate change also affect it very directly. Because for a girl to be married, most of the time it happens when there is drought. And I have to give out my girl in order to be able to get food for my family. And why am I giving out my girl if it's not climate change? So if we get some ideas and how to bring in the community to bridge the gap, bringing in the issues to do with farming, introducing issues to do with paddocking, so that when it becomes very dry in our areas, then we have a small section to get the bells from, and our cows will be able to get grass from it. So for me, it's much of, I think Kajiado County has come a long way, and we have so many things that we actually have to do in order to safeguard the issues and the security of girls, the security of boys in the community, in order to actually be the change makers that we want to see. So I truly believe in the leadership. I sincerely believe in the strategy set in order to be able to tackle the issue of climate change very well. And I know that it's not only Kajiado County now, but the whole country. Okay. And the change is me, and the change is you. So from the small space that you actually have in your home, how many trees are you planting? So if women from the village who are depending on a cow, to sell milk at 60 shillings per liter, save 20 shillings, are able to come together, save up, and actually utilize the small parcels of land that they have to produce tree seedlings. And I can boldly say that us, as Isilan Women in Conservation, we did our first batch of 100,000 tree seedlings production. And this was with the help of persons who actually know indigenous knowledge, because we couldn't have planted trees we had a choice of just planting a tree, but how do we know this tree works best here? Okay. So as my colleagues earlier said, it is very important to work with the communities. The communities have the solutions, and it's only when we bring in efforts together. So this is the challenge. What do we do about it? And when you do about it, do we get the solutions? Okay. So if at a small capacity we can do 100,000 tree seedlings production, how about if Floka comes in? How many seedlings can we produce? Okay. So this is more of a communal kind of involvement and engagement. And I thank Anita, because she said that you should have people who are genuinely interested with the issue of the community. Because if I have the burden of the community, then yes, we are going to work together. Okay. So just a parting shot that we are the change makers of tomorrow, and the change we want to see starts with us. Okay. Thank How many of you have a comment or questions raised? I see quite a number of hands. And then now you've talked about trees. Phineas Rewa, where is Phineas Rewa, County Conservator of Forests? Phineas, show of hands. We'll come to you in just a bit, but for now, let's take a quick break. When we come back, I'll give you back the microphone so that we come up with solutions going forward. And I'd like to hear from the students as well. How do we deal with this issue of climate change? How do we make it a mainstream conversation? And what do you